Chair.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you. Colleagues, the witnesses today have explained that our bankruptcy process is primarily designed to maximize creditor payouts and ensure that a business, where possible, can continue to operate. It is not designed for other goals, but it's often called upon to fulfill other goals. Here, the bankruptcy process is not just required to protect consumer privacy, but also to protect our national security interests. Professor Klein, what protections are built into the bankruptcy process to prevent foreign adversaries from taking advantage of the process to access sensitive information? I know the concern's been generally raised, but we're talking about a specific area of the law, bankruptcy law here, whether we're talking about personally identifiable information or national security sensitive information.
Thank you for the question, Senator. And this is one area where there actually have been encouraging changes. We are not defenseless. In the FIRMA law back in 2018, the Congress did give the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. the ability to reach into the bankruptcy process and block sales and transactions, something that it previously hadn't had within its jurisdiction. As you all know, that body in the executive branch is one of our main protections against key intellectual property, sensitive data, and so forth, slipping out the back door to foreign adversaries.
And how much of the sensitive information, if any, can potential buyers access before a sale becomes final? They're obviously doing due diligence in the process of making these decisions.
That's a great question, Senator. I'd refer that to the bankruptcy experts on the panel.
Anybody?
So can you repeat your question?
How much access to this very sensitive information, whether it's personal sensitive information or national security sensitive information, can a potential buyer access before a sale becomes final? Or is this an area where legislative action is needed?
Within a bankruptcy proceeding, there is an allowance for due diligence. I think the procedures for that will be determined by the bankruptcy court and may differ from case to case. To the extent that there's no protections outside bankruptcy law, I don't know that bankruptcy law does not produce additional protections that wouldn't otherwise exist.
So potential area for needed congressional action is what I'm hearing. And at what point, since have an expert before us, at what point in a bankruptcy process can CFIUS get involved, and do you have any recommendations about whether they should be involved earlier in the process?
So I'm afraid you'll have to explain what CFIUS is to me.
All right, we had an expert here. It's okay. We'll do a follow-up with you because my time is limited. I want to get to another topic, which is national security and biotechnology. I recently served as a member of the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology, and our findings in a recent report found that the United States has historically not treated biological data as a strategic asset, like our agricultural base, our oil reserves, despite its importance in advancing biotechnology and AI. Back to Professor Klein. What's your assessment of the CCP's effort to sweep up as much biological data that they can of Americans and of our allies and partners abroad to advance their own domestic biotechnology ambitions?
Well, I think we've seen, Senator, and thank you for the question, their ambitions are comprehensive. They want to dominate in critical sectors. They want to use information like this to enhance their military prowess, and potentially, and very worryingly, given the tension between our countries, to conduct asymmetric, unconventional attacks, potentially including biologic attacks. I'm sure you all saw that just in the past 2 weeks, the Eastern District of Michigan U.S. Attorney's Office has indicted 2 separate sets of Chinese national defendants on smuggling biologic materials into the United States. We've also seen the report on the Reedley Biolab out of the House Select Committee, where a person of Chinese nationality, citizenship, was in California running an unregistered biolab. We don't know exactly what was going on there. Some of these reports are very disturbing. We don't have a complete picture, but we know that the system, as the 9/11 Commission put it, is blinking, if not red, at least dark orange. And we need to have the imagination, and I'm glad this committee is doing it, to foresee how they might conduct unconventional attacks against our homeland in the event of an armed conflict.
Do you have any recommended actions for this committee or Congress as a whole to take to better protect our biological data while striking the important balance of promoting scientific research that depends on these data sets?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And bankruptcy is one vector. We're all covering down on that today. Cybersecurity, cyber attacks is another major vector. We know that it's very hard for companies to defend against a nation-state level attack, but we can at least make it harder for them. We can at least force them to expend their very best, most exquisite exploits to try to get in and spread those techniques that they have as thin as possible. But I'll also flag one other vector, insider threat. This is something that those of us who have led organizations in the government dealing with classified material worry about every day, but it's also true in the private sector. Companies do not have the same comprehensive security clearance standards or personnel vetting standards that government organizations are supposed to. There are some private sector actors that are starting to help, for example, defense industrial-based companies do this. But if an insider who has authorized credentials inside a company wants to take out a bulk data set, whether it's genomic data or weapons designs, what does that company have in place to prevent that exfiltration? That's another very problematic vector.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Till Savage, if I could just start